So those are the only 2 times I've been gone other than Ann Arbor, which is really not even going. It's so funny because when I was in school, I thought like I went away to college, and then like when I came back and as an adult, I would like, oh, I'm going to go up to Ann Arbor and spend the day, and I'd get my like little tea and get ready to drive, and like 30 minutes later I'd be there. I was like, I was nowhere. I could have stayed at home and driven to Ann Arbor for class. Like it really is. You think like you're so far away from home, but you're really not far away from home at all.
It is like a hop, skip, and a jump. And then
Right.
you meet people that really moved out of state. It's like, oh wow.
Right.
Just showing this to both of you so you see what it looks like.
Cool.
Oh wow. That look good.
Yay. My white pants.
That's a good. This is amazing.
Wide angle. I'm just messing with you. I don't care.
They look good.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So, what was your thoughts when you first came back? Like in 20, you said you came back in 2012.
In 2012, it was.
Okay.
There were changes that were surprising. In a good way in some respects. But you know, anytime you come back and things are unfamiliar, you're sort of like,
what is this?
what happened?
Looking very different.
Where's my city, the way I left it, right?
Especially if you be like downtown, I tell people like I remember it was like the underground parking lot, the beauty supply store.
Yep.
I used to go to YMCA, and then I come back, it's the whole hotel. I was like, this is different.
This is different.
Good. All right. Let me know when you're ready.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey everyone, I'm Cynthia LaShawn here with Take TV, sitting down with Portia Roberson, who is running for the 13th Congressional District. How are you doing today?
I am well. Thank you so much for having me. I was looking forward to this. I'm glad we were able to make it happen.
Yeah, we are so excited too. So you are a native Detroiter.
I am, born and raised.
So how's that experience been being like from Cass Tech? I have to start off asking, you know, and you will be judged by this answer.
Okay.
So be ready. What is your favorite Coney Island?
I am an American girl, not Lafayette.
Okay. You passed
Like
the
the
vibe
corn.
test.
Yes, yes. And listen, it's a big deal. I told somebody, I have a friend who said, well, it's just both Coney Islands. I was like, it's not. You need to choose. Like, you got to get it together here. So American's my favorite.
Oh my goodness, yeah, that's a big divider.
Yes.
You get to check. You really get to see somebody's personality with that.
Exactly, exactly.
So how can you describe growing up in Detroit? You
Sure.
speak very passionately about growing up in the community.
Listen, I tell people all the time, I love Detroit. I have been here most of my life. I've spent 2 different times in DC, one when I was clerking for the Public Defender's Office when I was in law school, and then again when I went back to work as part of President Obama's administration. But even when I went to DC the second time, there were other folks that went and they were going to stay even after the administration left office. I was never that person. I was always going to come back home. I always knew that this is where I wanted to live my life. I always tell people, I used to tell my former boss, the Attorney General, Eric Holder, if you're not from Detroit, you need to pay to get in because there's nothing like it in the world. And I know people say that about their cities, but I really feel like Detroit is different.
What aspects do you feel like make Detroit set apart from other places, especially having the opportunity to live in places like DC?
You know, we are working class, but with swag and glamour. Like, I think it's just completely different from other places. You know, people will describe other places as like, you know, Hollywoodish or, you know, blue collar or whatever their genre area might be and how they describe their folks. To me, Detroit has it all. Like, we are very much get up, go to work, work hard all day. But our play is real play, and our play is fabulous. And, you know, it's just something about it. I don't know. I tell people all the time that if you're from here, you are proud to say you're from here. Like, I've never, ever hesitated to let folks know I'm from the D.
You know, as a running joke, they say, I saw online, they said Detroiters are the only people that think that we are our own celebrities.
Yeah, we do. I mean, we absolutely do. And I think, you know, we take that wherever we go, wherever we are. We really do feel like, you know, when we meet people who really are true celebrities, we're kind of the mindset like, do they know who I am? Because we really do sort of believe that we're all on the same level. There's no sense of like demarcation between, you know, the quote unquote real celebrity and Detroiters. We all think we're pretty fabulous.
So when you was growing up, did you always see yourself being in this position? And what aspects made you realize this is something I want to go into?
So I did not plan my life according to being in politics, not at any point. I started out practicing law. I was a public defender. I was an assistant Wayne County prosecutor. I sort of moved through my career having opportunities that I wasn't expecting. I certainly did not expect to be appointed by President Barack Obama. Was thrilled to do that. And then when I came back to Detroit to run Strong Cities, Strong Communities, which was a partnership to bring federal resources back home to the city, and started working in City Hall, people started talking to me about running for office. Hey, you should, what about, and I started thinking about it a little bit, but really was not in the last few months planning on it, so to speak. And then, Congresswoman Lawrence reached out to me and said, Portia, I think you've got some great experience. You've already worked in federal government. You're now leading a nonprofit that offers direct services. I think you'd be perfect to try to step into this role. And so that's really what did it for me, thinking about the experience I've been fortunate enough to have and whether I could take that and make it successful and really serve people. Because that's really what my career has been, really been in service to people.
What resources or communities you feel like are lacking in Detroit?
I think across the board in Detroit, we have pockets of places that are doing really well, but we have pockets of places that are still struggling. The neighborhoods still need a lot of upgrading and work. And, when I did live in DC, one of the things I appreciated was you'd have all these different neighborhoods with different flavors. You could go to certain neighborhoods for this, that, or the other. And then if you wanted a different experience, you go to a different neighborhood. And I love that about it. And I think Detroit is primed for that kind of environment. Because we have so many different neighborhoods with people who've been long-standing in those neighborhoods, right? Whether it's been retail and small businesses that have been in neighborhoods forever, whether it's the people who've grown up on their block and moved 2 doors, 3 doors, 5 doors down. So I think it's prime for that. I think we just have to be more focused on how do we bring federal resources back to help that happen. And so that's why Congress is the fit for me, because I'm really focused on making sure that the people of the 13th District, and it's not just Detroit, it's the Points as well as Downriver, Highland Park, Hamtramck, that we get our fair share. When people are talking about federal dollars, we get some of it.
Yes, that's really important to make sure it's getting dispersed in underrepresented communities.
Yep.
So for those who don't understand, who are not very well versed in politics, what exactly does it mean to be 13th congressional district, and how and what communities that are you going to be representing, and how did that affect them?
Yeah. So again, the 13th district is really diverse. It's a new 13th, so it's new communities in the 13th. It goes from Grosse Point, all the points, Harper Woods, the east side of Detroit, southwest Detroit, northwest Detroit. So right away, I have named 3 different communities, really more like 6 different communities in the city of Detroit alone. And then it goes through Dearborn Heights and 9 other cities downriver: Romulus, Taylor, Southgate, Melvindale, Allen Park, Lincoln Park. What I have found when I have been campaigning is that people talk about the same things no matter where they live in this district. They really talk about, I want to be able to buy a house, right? I want to be able to not have crushing student loan debt if they've gone to school, or if they want to go to school. When they come out, they don't want to have a lot of debt. They want to talk about how much stuff costs right now, and how high gas has been, and how we now have to celebrate that gas is finally below $5 a gallon for the first time in a couple months. I've maintained, and I still maintain, that even though it's a very racially, socioeconomically diverse district, the needs are pretty much the same. The scale of those needs may be different, but most people want pretty much the same thing. And I think, running for Congress means that you should be looking for ways in which you can help people and not hurt people. The federal government, we send a lot of money back to states and cities, and we need to make sure that we can get it to people who need it the most.
No, I agree with that. And I like how you mentioned, even if somebody living like Grosse Point or Melvindale or Southeast Detroit, we still have these common threads that we still connect, and issues we deal with. People think, oh, they don't understand. No, we all going through the same thing called life.
Yep, that's exactly it. It's not that complicated. People try and make it more complicated than I think it needs to be. Overall, throughout this district, people just want to be able to provide for their families, live a good life. I always joke and say they want to be able to go on maybe 2 vacations a year. One, they might fly somewhere. The other one, they might do what my parents did with me and put me in the car in the back seat and drive, listen to Spinner's tapes and the OJs all the way to the South. But you know, that's what people want. They don't. It's not as complicated as people think it is, and we don't need to create people the others. You know, we tend to say like, oh, well, those people don't understand us, or you know, they can't understand what I'm going through. I think more often than not, given the opportunity, we need to be trying to understand each other a little bit better, because I do think we all want the same things.
No, as we all, like you said, we all have the same things. I wanted to know, being that the last few years it's been a lot of people having issues like connecting with politicians or having trust. What do you feel like is the thing that politicians are missing the mark, and how do you feel like you fill that void in building that trust and that connection? So
I think one is just who I am, right? I've been doing work with folks and people and just being a people person for my entire career. I run a nonprofit called Focus Hope, which is an institution in, you know, the Detroit area. Most people know about Focus Hope. And we're all about constituent services and how we serve people. And in part, because we do that work, I have to be responsive to people. I can't ignore when people call me for help. I can't, you know, that's the basis of why I'm there, is to make sure I can help people and get resources to people. And, you know, I think I understand when people say I don't really care about politics, because I think for far too long people haven't seen how politics has a real effect on their lives. Now, you know, I think if anything, particularly for women and for some men, we've seen in the last few weeks, as we've talked about the issue of choice for women, you know, when we don't care about politics, we put people in leadership who end up putting Supreme Court justices on the bench who can take away a woman's right to choose. I'm a pro-choice Democratic woman. I strongly believe a woman should not have to tell anybody else what she wants to do with her body, nor should she have to ask anybody. So I hope that people see that as a reason why it should be part of, and politics should be part of what they are interested in, because it really does have a big effect on how we live our lives. And then, you know, I think you got to work to make sure that people get what they need, and that the federal government's not hurting them, but is in fact helping them. So, you know, that's what I intend to do when I get to Congress.
Oh, wow. No, I love it, and I love the passion. Where do you, I don't know if you mentioned earlier, where does this passion start? Like,
you know, I think my dad was, I was very fortunate. My mom was a Detroit public school social worker. My dad was a judge. Both of them just sort of luckily got into that. They were both from the South. They came here. They were very fortunate to be raised by their siblings and helped out by family members. And just sort of, my dad, I always tell the story, my dad like rode the bus with somebody to what used to be the Detroit College of Law. It's now affiliated with Michigan State. And when he went with his friend his friend was going to apply, the professor or dean said, why don't you apply? And he did, and he lucked up, and he had an incredible career. But he was very clear about making sure he helped people and gave them an opportunity when maybe others would not have given them an opportunity. And I think I saw that both with him and my mom, so I kind of got into public service. But the other thing that I think is really a part of who I am in terms of running for Congress is representation. I just don't think we pay enough attention to how much it means to represent. As a black woman, there are only 25 black women in Congress right now out of 435 in the House and another 100 in the Senate. And I just know, you know, I often say I've had some magnificent experiences. I've been to the White House a couple times, but I still get choked up when I see black women doing incredible things, because I realize that even though I'm probably more their peer, I'm not a young girl looking up at somebody, I still realize how important it is to see myself reflected back. You know, when Vice President Harris was elected and she took the oath of office as Vice President, you know, I cried, because it was just like, you know, it was impactful to me to see a black woman, you know, second highest person in the land. Like, that's crazy for me to like, I feel like it's weird for me to have that kind of effect on me. But, you know, I think it's important that we still sit in those seats where we can elevate things like the Crown Act, where we can wear our hair however we want to our jobs and not feel like we're going to get discriminated against. And, you know, that we can argue about why women, and particularly black women, still get paid less than everybody else, you know. So I think, you know, one of the reasons that I'm so passionate about running for Congress is because those are the kind of issues that I'm going to be able to lend a voice to, because those are my experiences.
And from your experience as well, what challenges have you faced and how you overcame them on your journey?
Yeah, so many. And, you know, we often think, you know, when you're in the mix of it, you don't really take the time to reflect on the experience. You know, I've had jobs where the offer has been less than what it would have been for a man. I've had jobs where when I've been successful, somebody didn't come to me right away and say, hey, we want to make it, you know, want to give you a little bit more because you did such a great job. You still are fighting for that opportunity, you know. I'm constantly in a position as an executive in making sure, you know, we always get tagged with sort of, you know, you can't be too angry, you can't be too aggressive because it comes across a certain way, it's particularly for black women. And so those are all kinds of challenges that we all face, whether we're in school, whether we're in our employment, our jobs, our profession. So it's still some of the things that we go through on a daily basis.
No, and that is so true. And a lot of people don't talk about that. They just see like the glitz and glamour or the Instagram pictures. And it's like, no, it's a lot happening behind closed doors, but it's all about the mindset.
Yeah.
And so like, and what exactly like keep you going?
Well, you know, it's interesting. So when I started my campaign, you know, you do all these things, social media, as you mentioned, pictures, blah, blah, blah. And one of the things somebody said to me, internal, was that I wasn't coming across as warm and fuzzy. And I was like, how do you do that? Like, do I need a puppy? Do I need to take somebody's kid? My nieces are around me, but they're not mine. You know, and so I think what you do is you know, I've always said that if you put your head down and get the work done, more often than not, people will see it. And when they don't see it, sometimes you have to elevate it. And I will tell you, this campaign in particular has taught me a couple of things that I encourage about young women like yourself. Elevate yourself, brag on yourself, tell people what you've done. I think myself, my friends, we were sort of raised at a time where, yes, we were being told you can do everything, but there was still a level of not really promoting yourself, right? And so it was really difficult, and still is difficult for me to talk about some of the stuff I've already done, right? Like I see some of my opponents, particularly some of my male opponents, they can talk about whatever they've done and elevate it, and you think that they had won the world already, right? As women, we sort of shy away from that. We don't want to be too braggadocious. We want to have some sense of humbleness and humility. So I've really made it, particularly on this campaign trail, to tell women like you, young women who are still building their career, brag on yourself. Yes, post that picture on Instagram. Yes, post that picture on TikTok and say, I got this done today. I did this, I did that. Because I think it's really important that we get used to hearing about our accomplishments and talking about our accomplishments, so that we don't have to sort of, what I had to do was get over the hump of really kind of talking about the things that I had done.
No, and I really appreciate the passion about that, because, leading me to my next question, I feel like a lot of people kind of overlook the issues millennials and Gen Z face. And so what specific issues you have in mind for them, because a lot of times they are left out of the discussion. And although more and more of us are voting, how do you plan to connect with them, and what issues are you trying to look out for them?
Student loan debt is one of the first ones. I still have student loans from law school. So, and I've been out a little while from law school because I've had a career that's primarily been nonprofit work, public service work. You know, I haven't been in a position to just say, hey, you know, I got a big bonus from a law firm, I can pay it off, those kind of things. That's part of it. The other piece, and I think you guys are doing a wonderful job in terms of the next generation, is pushing politicians, pushing people who are a generation or so ahead of you into thinking about the future. You know, I get so much more wisdom from talking to millennials about climate change, about mass transit, about, affordable housing, because you all are facing that in a way that maybe my generation didn't think about as well. I talk often about my niece who's 16. She's been 16 since January. She didn't even have her full license yet. When I turned 16, that was the first thing I had to do, like stop everything. I need my driver's license because I'm gonna be out here and behind the wheel. But I think what she notices, what you all know, is that nobody wants that car. They don't want necessarily to have that burden, and they want to be living in places where they can have mass transit and walk around and get to places and shop and do things in their neighborhood. And I think that's something that we as politicians, when we hear from you all to say, listen, this is what I want, we got to start listening, right? We got to start doing actions that really are what the next generation wants, and not about what we used to do or how we used to always do it. Yeah.
No, and that's so true, because like you said, nowadays it's like you facing it, you seen everything like in first person views.
Yep.
We seen the issues and living it every day, and not only you have to talk about it, you have to be about it as well. And that's so like important, not discussed enough. So what are things you would do differently if elected?
So I think, like I said, I think for me, there are a lot of candidates running, and a lot of us have very similar viewpoints on a lot of issues. But I think for me, what's different is I've not run for elected office before. I've not written legislation, although I'm a lawyer, so I certainly understand law and certainly have done enough reading of laws and crafting of policies and arguments around certain laws that I know that I'll be okay there. But I think what sets me apart is when you've had the opportunity, as I have had, to deliver direct services. At Focus Hope, we feed 42,000 seniors a month. We have an early learning program for young ones that we do early Head Start, and we do workforce training. And I think for me, I've always maintained that once you've delivered services to people, you really have a better understanding of how legislation and policy should work, and how you need to look at it the lens of how is this going to change somebody's life today. Not, the future's great and we're all planning and preparing for a future where people can live comfortably, but I know that people are expecting somebody to go to Congress that can do some things for them right now. Because too often it doesn't, and that's why people don't get engaged. They're like, yeah, we hear about a big infrastructure bill, what does that have to do with me, right? And so I think I have, in fact, I know I have sort of a different sort of mindset around when I'm voting on something. Like, is this really going to help people today, or is this some big project that people in my district are going to be like, okay, that didn't do anything for me, that didn't change anything, I still don't have a job, I'm still out here hustling, trying to make it, We've got to make sure that people understand the connection between the federal government and what's happening on a daily in people's daily lives. And so, that's one of the things that I'm going to be focused on, is that making sure, when we do something, it has an effect. Now, I'm really proud of the fact that Focus Hope had about $7 million worth of debt when I got there, and we're completely out of debt now. And one of the ways I did that was by getting rid of some of our real estate. Now, we have a huge presence on Oakland Boulevard, so most people won't even know that we don't have a couple of the buildings we had when I got there. But after we got financially stable, which was huge for a nonprofit like ours, because we were in financial straits for a long time, one of the first things we did was raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. Not waiting on the federal government to tell us to do it, but doing it now so that the people who've been working at Focus Hope would share in our success right now. So those are the kind of things that you think about when you should be thinking about when you go to Congress, and what I will be thinking about when I get there is how do we make it work? How do we make the federal government work for people right now?
And when you say when you get to Congress, I know every issue is a major issue.
Yes.
But what is the biggest issue you're going to challenge when you get there? Like, what's on your first of your list in your notebook?
It's funny you should ask that, because people ask me that all the time, and I will tell you that it's kind of evolved since even March when I announced that I was running for Congress. Obviously, I want to make it easier for people to vote. So the John Lewis Voting Rights Act that didn't get passed as part of Build Back Better was always something that I think should be a priority because, you know, unlike other communities, we don't necessarily have the economic power, but we still have a voting power that can change how people think about what they do in our communities. If you know that you're going to be voted out because you're not responsive to people and they actually will go to the polls and vote you out, you're going to think about how you do things a little bit differently. Obviously, again, as a pro-choice woman, when the reproductive rights and Roe v. Wade was rolled back, I was, you know, horrified because, I mean, for most of my life, the majority of my life, that's been something that, you know, was just there. And I didn't expect it. I would still be talking about Roe v. Wade, especially in this campaign. So that's certainly an important issue to me. But what has also become, and it's always been a really important issue to me, but it seems to have, for me, become more of a priority lately, is just gun violence. I'm just tired. I'm like, I just don't believe that America is a country that's just going to be like, every day some child is going to get killed, or sometimes 19 children are going to get killed in their school. You know, I spent 2 years during the pandemic trying to keep babies safe at Focus Hope, making sure they came through different doors so they weren't together, making sure that we cracked the doors a little bit so fresh air could generate when it was warm enough. And now all of a sudden I realized, like, that's not the right thing to do, because somebody may walk onto campus and come through the doors, and I don't know if they're coming here to harm not only our children but the other workers who work at Focus Hope. And so I know it's a really hard issue that people spend a lot of money making sure that everything stays status quo. But I think you shouldn't be running for Congress if you don't want to take on hard issues, if you don't want to fight against that status quo. And I just, again, I still believe that Americans, we got to think better about our country. Like, we just cannot. I mean, I saw, you know, the other day right here in my hometown, you know, a 13-year-old inadvertently got a hold of a gun and shot and killed his 12-year-old cousin. And you know, I just can't give in to being like, that's cool. I just can't let that go and say, that's all right, we're gonna live like that. So those are kind of the things that I'm fighting for, including things that we all get a piece of the American dream, that we can all maybe buy a condo, a house, a co-op, or an apartment, whatever it is we want to buy, that we can actually afford to do that. So, you know, I'm going to push on some of the issues that I've been pushing on my entire life. I'm chair of the Michigan Civil Rights Commission. So civil rights issues have been part of what I do and what I've done my whole career.
Wow. And I love that you can really feel like the passion for it, because people can feel that.
Yeah.
You can tell that. So that leads me to my last question.
Okay.
What mark do you want to make if elected, and what do you want your legacy to be?
So, you know, it's interesting. People always ask about legacy. They asked it when I started at Focus Hope, what do you want your legacy to be? My legacy, hopefully there, is that I left Focus Hope in a great position and financially stable. In terms of my legacy in Congress, I would hope that, you know, when I go to Congress, because I like to claim it ahead of time, that when I'm finished in Congress, people will say, she did an amazing job for the people who voted for her there. She made sure we got our piece of the pie. She made sure that people got the help that they needed. I mean, there really is, to me, no other reason to go to Congress, just to have the title. Maybe that's something that other people are interested in. I've had the good fortune of having titles and having access to places that I never expected to have. So when I go to Congress, it really is about helping people. It's what I've done my entire career and what I want to continue to do. And I hope that that's what people see in me now and what people will say about me when I go to Congress. And certainly what my legacy will be is that I was about people and helping people, particularly in this district and in my hometown.
No, I love it. And also, do you have anything you want to say and leave our audience with?
You know, I think I totally get why people are somewhat disengaged in politics. And I think it's imperative that we, as people who want to be elected, really push to make sure that people understand the connection between federal government, state government, and local government, and what you do every day and how you live every day. I think that's something that I have to keep emphasizing. I want people to be engaged, because I think too often politicians and people who are elected get away with things because they know that people will not vote them in or vote them out once they get there. And so you can kind of relax and think, I'm here for a long period of time. But I think we're a community, you know, and I think we can do better. And we got to keep pushing in that direction to do better. We got to demand more of our elected officials, but we got to demand more of each other so that we can be the community and the neighborhood and the city and the district that we all want to live in. So, you know, that's hopefully what I'm a part of doing, and I'll continue that one way or the other.
Well, thank you so much. I
Thank
really
you.
appreciate you taking the time out with us. And before we close out, how can people follow you or support you?
So PortiaForCongress.com is the website. You can go on there. We're in the home stretch now. We only got about 12 more days. I'm certainly encouraging people, if they have not had an opportunity to go and do some investigation of the candidates that are running, they should do that, their own independent investigation. There's a lot of commercials and ads and people saying a whole lot of stuff, and I hope people just go and look for themselves. I really have always believed that my experience makes me the most qualified for this position, and I hope people feel that too. But you know, if they're interested in getting with our campaign and being a part of it in these last few weeks, at least for the primary, I'm certain there'll be opportunities after the primary, because I'm planning to be in the general election. PortiaForCongress.com is a way to get in touch with us.
Well, awesome. Thank you again so much.
Thank you. This is fun.
Yeah, this was so much fun. I really enjoyed myself. And for the audience, please make sure get out there and vote. Vote for your district. Make sure you're registered. I'm Cynthia LaShawn. Thank you for watching Take TV.